Since 2015, Jared Stillman has rocked Nashville sports.
That team freaking stinks.
And now he's back. The takes are hotter than ever.
I mean, let's be honest, he just can't coach.
Welcome to Stillman and Company.
Welcome to Stillman and Company on the 440 Sports Network, presented by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. And we are also a part of the Believe YouTube podcast network, which, of course, you know we love our friends at Believe as well. It is a Hot Take Friday, but today is one of my favorite days of the year. And I have been doing this. I did it on the radio since 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. Did one last year, 2025. And I'm doing it again today. The 2026 Jared Stillman Tennessee Titans free agency plan. This is what I would do if I was the general manager of the Titans. And these are the signings, the trades, everything else that I would make. This is not what I think they will do this time last year. I knew it looked like they weren't going to go get Sam Darnold, but the first thing I did in my free agency plan, as you all know, was go get Sam Darnold. Like, that's what so this is my plan. This is not their plan. And before we get started exactly with the plan, I do want to tell everybody to be sure to be joining us on Monday. Like and subscribe and turn on notifications, because on Monday, free agency opens at 11 o'clock, and we will have the Stillman and Company free agent frenzy. That's right, 11 a.m. on the YouTube page, live reacting to all the news, not just across the league, but specifically for the Titans. And we will be loaded with special guests. Hutton will join the show. TD will join the show. Caroline will join the show. Nick Suss is going to join the show. Everybody's all locked in and everything else for the free agency frenzy. And I have thought about this in the past, because when it was just me doing it, it was kind of like, okay, that's great, but I would have to wait until 2 o'clock to come on. And I was like, where is somewhere I can watch where they talk Titans, and not where Jeremy Fowler sits around a desk and is like, oh, I got one tweet in here. And that will be our show, where we will react to all the news. We will react to, if there's a lack of news, we will react to that. Everything on board. I do want to start off by telling you about our presenting sponsor. That is Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Hiller has been in business since 1990. They are family owned and operated with 100% satisfaction. If happy, you'll be the service is free. If a customer is not pleased with the work that is performed, Hiller will make it right. And I know this because I use Hiller in my home. I've used Hiller in my homes for years, and they always take great care of me. Professional, experienced, trustworthy technicians that come into the home and leave it clean and better than they found it, and care is their core value. Hiller believes that when they care about others, everybody wins, and they'll take care of the customer on every job, every time. Again, I know this because I use Hiller at my home. They are the best. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. That's Hiller. Call the Happy Face Truck today. Okay, so let's start off the 2026 Stillman & Company free agency plan. Let's start with the current state of the Titans team. According to Spot Track, the Titans currently have a payroll of $169,503,297. So $169.5. I believe the budget is going to be at about $301 million. And the reason I say this is because over the last 3 years, according to my calculations, the Titans have spent cash-wise 100.00023% of the cap. So that means that whatever the cap is, essentially, the Titans spend cash for cap. Now, teams like the 49ers and the Eagles, they spend like 115% of the cap. I think the 49ers are 117 over the last 3 years, but the Titans, 100.00023%. So we'll set it at $301.2 million. That is a difference of $131.696703. The rookie class would account for $36 million, again, give or take a little bit. But $36 million is what the rookie class is looking like. And that gives us a difference of $95,693,703 in cash that I believe the Tennessee Titans will enter Monday with the ability to spend. That being said, there are a whole lot of needs for this football team. There are needs at center. There are needs at right guard. There are needs at tight end. They need 2 wide receivers, I believe. Defensive end, defensive tackle, corner, nickel corner, safety, long snapper, kicker, and punter. Boy, that's a lot of shit right there that they got to go get. But that is where we start. So the first thing would be, okay, what are the moves that the Titans need to make before we enter Monday at 11 o'clock? Move number 1, release corner L'Jarius Sneed. Now, this is where it gets tricky. I think people are wondering, why haven't the Titans already released L'Jarius Sneed? I believe that L'Jarius Sneed apparently is guaranteed $7.5 million for injury for his 2026 salary. Now, how fucking stupid did Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker? I mean, I'm sorry. Chad Brinker's got to bear some of the blunt in this here. How fucking stupid did they have to be to injury guarantee $7.5 million to L'Jarius Sneed 3 years into a deal when, again, everybody and their grandma knew that Sneed's need was an issue? So Sneed's going to fail a physical. And so they're going to have to give him an injury designation. So it's only going to clear $8.5 million instead of the $17 million that it should clear. And I think that's why they've been waiting, is because I think they're waiting for Sneed to pass a physical and then they'll cut him. But I don't think Sneed will ever pass a physical. So I'm just assuming this is going to be an injury designation. So instead of all the money that you should save with L'Jarius Sneed, you're only going to clear $8.5 million. I cannot believe that the Titans signed L'Jarius Sneed with injury guaranteed money 3 years into that contract. Number 2, I'm releasing Cody Barton. That will clear $5 million in cash. Barton will still get $1.5 million guaranteed. And that takes my total right now. Again, I got to keep a running total at $109.2 million in terms of what I can spend. Because I've released Sneed and I've released Barton. I'm going to re-sign long snapper Morgan Cox to a 1-year, $1.255 contract. I'm going to re-sign Ali Udoh to the same contract. Those are the veteran minimums. And then I am going to re-sign Darrell Baker Jr. Again, that's just a depth move, but I'm going to re-sign Darrell Baker Jr. to a 1-year, $1.145 million contract. That takes my cash total right now that I will enter day one of free agency with to $105,541,703. I do, though, still have needs. Center, right guard, wide receiver, defensive end, defensive tackle, corner, safety, kicker, punter, and now I've added a need at inside backer because I've released Cody Barton. So that's going to add to the list of people that they're going to have to go get. So now that takes us to what everybody gets excited about. Day one of free agency. And I tried to be as realistic as possible when it came to day one of free agency with the money that you're going to have to spend to land the guys that you really want. Yesterday, we talked about this with the suck tax, where we took the PFF contracts and we factored in for inflation when guys go to bad teams, and the money on Tyler Linderbaum, if you want him, $23.5 million, almost $80 million guaranteed. That's what we think it will cost in order to do it. And that's what we're going to do. Free agent move number 1, signed center Tyler Linderbaum from Baltimore to a 4-year, $94.25 million contract with $75 million guaranteed at signing. We'll give him a signing bonus of $25 million. Year one cash will be $28 million. That'll have a cap hit of $8 million, but who gives a shit about the cap? The cash, $28 million. But guess what? You now have the number 1 center. And I don't think anybody's going to guarantee $75 million to Tyler Linderbaum. Not when Creed Humphrey has the top contract, and his top contract overall is $72 million. So we are resetting the market at center, but we're getting Tyler Linderbaum. That's move number one. And that takes our total. Remember, I walked into today with $105.5 million to spend. That takes us to $77.5 million. So, boom, just like that. I mean, we are significantly lower in on the money we're able to spend. Number two, I'm signing defensive end Trey Hendrickson from Cincinnati to a 3-year, $80 million contract with $54 million guaranteed at signing. He'll get a bonus of $30 million. He'll get $35 million in year one cash. I don't think anybody else is going to pay him $35 million in year one cash. Again, $80 million, $54 million guaranteed. That'll come with a cap hit of $14 million. And now my total that I can spend on the rest of the roster is $42.5 million. So just like that, we have spent $28 million on Linderbaum, $35 million in 1 year on Trey Hendrickson. But I'm not done with day one free agents. I have one more. Wide receiver Rashid Shaheed from Seattle will go 3 years, $55 million with $36 million guaranteed at signing. So I'm basically, taking the first 2 years for Shaheed. That's 55 over 3. And I really paid a suck tax here, I think. I think Shaheed's going to get north of 20. That's 18.3. But that's where we go with Shaheed. He gets a $15 million bonus, year one cash, $20 million, cap hit $10 million. And now we've got $22.5 million to spend. So the first day of free agency, the day where it's like, we got to have those guys. The moves are Tyler Linderbaum, 4 years, $94.25 million, $75 million guaranteed at signing. Hendrickson, 3 years, $80 million, $54 million guaranteed. Shaheed, 3 years, $55 million, $36 million guaranteed. And the reason I said let's go with Shaheed is because I think he's going to be a lot cheaper than Alec Pierce. And I think he's kind of similar to Alec Pierce, plus he'll be my kick returner. So Chim DK is going to be my punt returner. Shaheed's going to be my kick returner. And Shaheed's going to be one of my starting outside receivers. Now, this takes us back to our needs. We've got $22.5 million to spend, but we still have needs at right guard, tight end, wide receiver, defensive tackle, corner, safety, kicker, punter. So, where do we go now on day two? So this is day 2, day 3. This is where guys who thought, oh, man, I'm going to get a big deal. And in day 1, the big deal's not there, or where they thought they were going to sign, it's gone. And now it's like, okay, I better take a deal. Now, I'm not taking nothing, but there's still some money out there, but it's not what it used to be. That is where we sit going into day 2 or 3. Day 2, I'm signing defensive tackle David Onyemata from the Atlanta Falcons to a 1-year, $5 million contract. Onyemata's older. I know you people want John Franklin Myers, but Onyemata is older, but he's still good. He's professional. We know he fits the system because he played well last year for Jeff Ulbrich, who was the defensive coordinator in Atlanta. Jeff Ulbrich was the defensive coordinator in New York with Robert Saleh and ended up being the interim head coach with the Jets. So Onyemata, he's older. I think he's 33. 1 year, $5 million. Pair him next to Simmons. Pair him next to Hendrickson. We've already got Jermaine Johnson on the defensive line. Throw in Femi Oladejo, who's going to get some reps out there. And I actually feel pretty good about my defensive line. So Onyemata is the fourth piece there. Number 2. Oh, by the way, that's 1 year, $5 million, cap hit $5 million. Number 2, tight end Jonnu Smith to a 1 year, $4.5 million contract with $4.5 million guaranteed at signing. The reason I say Jonnu Smith is because I believe Chigakonkwo is going to cost somewhere in the ballpark of $8 to $9 million. I think Jonnu is a better blocker than Chigakonkwo because I've seen Jonnu Smith be the number 1 tight end on a team that had a 2,000-yard rusher. I've told you, we're going to run the football. I want Cam to play pepper with the tight end. I know Jonnu had a down year last year in Atlanta. I think, Aaron Rodgers, I think that Jonnu Smith can still be a good fit. Can still give you some juice. He's 30 years old, so it's a 1-year deal, $4.5 million for Jonnu Smith. And then the other thing that does by bringing in Jonnu Smith is it doesn't block Gunnar Helm. I'm not one of these guys that just sits there and says, we got a starter. We hit it out of the park with Gunnar Helm. Like, I'm very cautious to not want to give starting spots to Alec Manor, Gunnar Helm, Marcus Harris, or Kevin Winston, because they haven't proven anything yet. Like Kevin Winston, I don't know if he can be healthy or not. So I'm going to pen him in to start. That'll get you fired. So when it comes to tight end, I'm not convinced yet Gunnar Helm's a starting tight end. But if Gunnar Helm takes the next step and he does become a starting tight end, then we can fade Jonnu Smith out at $4.5 million. And again, we all know Jonnu Smith can play. Like, he's not great anymore. He never was great. But we're going to go with Jonnu Smith. Right guard. I'm signing guard John Simpson of the New York Jets to a 2-year, $16 million contract, $10 million guaranteed at signing. Now, the year one cash is going to be lower than the AAV, which normally doesn't happen. I'm going to give him $7 million year one, so he'll get $3 million coming to him in year two, guaranteed, if he does well, with a cap hit of $4 million. Well, now, guess how much money I have? And I picked John Simpson because John Simpson makes sense for two reasons. Number one, John Simpson played for Robert Saleh in New York, and I think John Simpson actually played pretty well. Especially that first year in New York, which was the year in which Saleh was the coach. The second thing is John Simpson played right guard for the Baltimore Ravens. Well, who was the Baltimore Ravens center when John Simpson played right guard? Tyler Linderbaum. So John Simpson knows Robert Saleh, and John Simpson has played next to Tyler Linderbaum. So you will have a situation where, with the exception of Latham at right tackle, everybody has played next to somebody that they're playing with next season at the beginning of the year as the offensive line starts to gel. Dan Moore's played next to Skoronski. Skoronski's played next to Moore. Linderbaum's played next to Simpson. Simpson's played next to Linderbaum. And then there's Latham at right tackle. And I think it's going to be cheaper than Kevin Zeitler, and John Simpson's younger than Kevin Zeitler. And I signed Simpson to a 2-year deal that if he sucks, I can get out of after year one. But I feel good about John Simpson as a 2-year player at right guard. We're going to go with John Simpson at right guard. But now we only have $6 million in cash. According to my calculations, with the money I've spent, we got $6,041,703 with needs at wide receiver 1, corner, nickel corner, safety, kicker, and punter. So only $6 million to spend. And that's where I think I got a little nervous here. But here's one thing that I think I want to discuss about how I feel personally if I was building this football team. The way I feel about this is I do not value corners in the NFL in today's game unless they are a true number one lockdown corner. So a Pat Surtain, he's got value to me. A Christian Gonzalez, he has value to me. Now, I would never pay 2 first-round draft choices the way Indianapolis did for Sauce Gardner, because I certainly don't think corner matters that much. But when it comes to free agent corners, I kind of feel like these guys are all the same. So the way I look at the free agent corner position is I'm like, hey, I know I'm going to draft guys. I got a 3rd-round pick. I got 4th-round picks. I got picks at day 3. I could throw Marcus Harris out there. I just re-signed Darrell Baker for depth. I think there's 7 guys. And one of these guys is going to sign a contract that we're like, what the fuck? He signed for that much? And then a bunch of these guys are going to be sitting there week 3 of free agency without a job. And that's where I'm going to go sign my corners. So when it comes to the corner position, again, I've only got $6 million to spend. So I am going to sign 2 corners for a total of $8 million from this list. Number 1, Noah Igbenogany from Washington. Number 2, Cam Taylor-Britt from Cincinnati. Number 3, Akilo Weatherspoon from the Rams. Number 4, Russell Douglas. I believe he's in Miami. Number 5, Trevon Diggs, who was released by the Dallas Cowboys and then played, I think, 1 game for the Green Bay Packers. Number 6, Roger McCreary. Number 7, Kader Kohou. So I'm going to sign 2 of those guys for about $4 million each. So I'm going to sign those guys for about $4 million. Now that is going to take me into the red. So now I'm into the red, $1,958,297. I'm in the red 1.9, and I don't think Amy's going to let me go over that number I said at the beginning, which is $301,200,000. So we're going to have to make some changes. But again, that's the list of corners that I would be interested in. 2 of these guys, Noah Igbenogany, Cam Taylor-Britt, Akilo Weatherspoon, Russell Douglas, Trevon Diggs, Roger McCreary, and Kader Kohou. And they would all sign 1-year deals. So even if a guy like Diggs, he's got some attitude questions, I'm okay with it. Because when it comes to Diggs, it's a 1-year deal. So 1-year deal, you've got attitude questions. You show up, you play like an asshole for me, and your career's over. Or you could get your shit together. We're going to have Trey Hendrickson, Jeffrey Simmons, and all these dogs rushing the passer. You may get a couple of interceptions, and now all of a sudden you go back on the market next year and go cash in. Then I got to sign a backup quarterback. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did when it came to corner at the backup quarterback position. So I am going to sign one of the following backup quarterbacks to a contract of about $3 million. Teddy Bridgewater, Gardner Minshew, Kyle Allen, Tyler Huntley. Now, I'm not paying $3 million for Tyler Huntley, but he's on the list. But I'd like to get Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater has familiarity with the Earhart-Perkins offense. It's what Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell run, which is what he ran a couple years ago in Detroit. He has certainly run a bunch of different offenses in the NFL with his stops in Minnesota, Carolina, Denver, last year in Tampa. He pretty much knows everything. Teddy Bridgewater, I think, would be the perfect mentor to Cam. Teddy Bridgewater is from Miami. I think Teddy Bridgewater, that would be a guy I would target first at $3 million to bring in as the backup quarterback to Cam. If Teddy has to play, then Teddy can play. But I'm really bringing Teddy in to kind of be that mentor / coach / hey, let's keep an eye on Cam here. Let's, really work on developing Cam. Let's be the translator for Cam when it comes to the Titans. So that's my backup quarterback spot. That's my corner spot. But now I'm in the red. I hate this. $4.958 million. So I'm going to have to make up that money somewhere for whatever that's worth. How are we going to make up that money? Well, we're going to release Calvin Ridley. So Calvin Ridley gets $3 million guaranteed. And so he's going to get that, which means that I now have a total of $16.771 million. This is week 2 of free agency. So now we wait for the depressed free agent safety market. These are not day 1 free agents. These are not guys that we have to go out and go get right away. But that's what we're going to do is we're going to wait for week 2, week 3 of free agency, and then we're going to sign another safety. And so after we get rid of Calvin Ridley, we're going to sign one of these safeties. Alohi Gilman, Andre Sisco, Geno Stone, Andrew Wingard, Kyle Duggar, Jimmy Ward. One of those guys for at least $2.5 million is going to be available 2 or 3 weeks into free agency. They always are. So right now, I've got a total of $14 million to spend. And I need a kicker, and I need a punter. And I also am going to add my inside linebacker here. Zaire Franklin in Indianapolis. He's got 2 years and $16.1 million remaining, but none of that money's guaranteed. Indianapolis is looking for a trade partner. I put sign or trade. I think he's going to get released. And so Zaire Franklin stunk last year in Indianapolis. I get it. But last year was when they changed up the defense and they went away from Gus Bradley. So Gus Bradley has coached Zaire Franklin as the main guy, as the main inside backer in that defense before. I'd like to, try to get him real on the cheap once Indy cuts him for $3 million, but I put him down for $7 million, even though I don't think he'll be that expensive. But Zaire Franklin, that's $7 million in cash, which gives me a total of $7,271,703. And then I'll allocate $4 million to kicker and punter, and I'll go to Bones Fossil, and I'll say, go pick out the kickers and punters you want, and we'll sign them for a total of $4 million. And that will leave us with $3,271,703 in the kitty. And our needs now going into the draft will be wide receiver and nickel corner. And that is the free agency plan. Again, the first step of the plan, assess the payroll and the needs. The second step of the plan, goodbye L'Jarius Sneed, goodbye Cody Barton, re-sign Morgan Cox, the long snapper, re-sign Ali Udoh to be the swing tackle, and re-sign Darrell Baker Jr. to be a depth piece at corner. Again, nothing earth-shattering there, nothing crazy that you would look back on and say, how could you possibly re-sign Ali Udoh? That's fine. The second step of the plan, day one of free agency, sign Tyler Linderbaum to a market-shattering 4-year, $94.25 million contract with $75 million guaranteed at signing. Sign defensive end Trey Hendrickson to a 3-year, $80 million contract with $54 million guaranteed. That's right, $54 million guaranteed. Signing bonus, $30 million. Number 3, sign Rashid Shaheed to a 3-year, $55 million contract. So whatever you want, you can manage that, however, but those are the 3 guys I'm signing day one: Linderbaum, Hendrickson, and Shaheed. I got the best safety, I got a sacker, and I've got a speed receiver to go with Chimdike because we are upping the speed on offense. Day 2 of free agency, day 3, David Onyemata from Atlanta to a 1-year, $5 million contract. Jonnu Smith, tight end from Pittsburgh, 1-year, $4.5 million contract. Guard John Simpson from the New York Jets to a 2-year, $16 million contract. He'll play right guard. Then I go and I wait. And I say, hey, I'm going to sign 2 of these guys to play corner at my price, about $4 million each. Noah Igbenogany, Cam Taylor-Britt, Akilo Weatherspoon, Russell Douglas, Trevon Diggs, Roger McCreary, Kader Kohu. Those guys will start at corner, and I've also got the draft. And then I'm going to sign a backup quarterback from this group: Teddy Bridgewater, Gardner Minshew, Kyle Allen, Tyler Huntley. I'm sure some people in their plans when it comes to backup quarterback will either include Will Levis as a potential backup quarterback. I'm not going in that spot, and I can't just assume that somebody will take Will Levis. So one thing I did think about was a potential trade with the Raiders for Aiden O'Connell, but I don't know why the Raiders would do that. But O'Connell would be a good backup, I think. But I'm going to go with Bridgewater, Minshew, Allen, or Huntley to be the backup to Cam Ward. And then finally, we're going to get rid of Calvin Ridley. We're going to take that money back. We're going to sign a safety off of the depressed safety market. That's Alohi Gilman, Andre Sisco, Geno Stone, Andrew Winger, Kyle Duggar, Jimmy Ward. One of those guys will join Amani Hooker and Kevin Winston at the safety position. We'll wait on Zaire Franklin, but we'll get him. He'll be the inside backer to go with Cedric Gray. And then we'll allocate $4 million for Bones Fossil to pick out a punter and a kicker for me. And then we go into the draft needing a receiver. And I put nickel corner as a need. A lot of people want to say that Kevin Winston's going to be the nickel corner. As of today, I think Kevin Winston can do that. But hold on. Let's be very, very careful. So, with that, let's get to what I think would be your reaction. which I'm sure you guys are going to go crazy on. And again, a reminder that we will have our show on Monday starting early, 11 o'clock Central Time, where we will have the free agency frenzy special. Hutton, TD, Caroline, Nick Suss will all join the program at some point as we break down what the Titans did do, what the Titans don't do, what the Titans need to do, what the Titans should be doing. All of that will be coming up on Monday. Okay, let's get to your reaction. I'm sure the comments are absolutely wild. We start off with someone saying, I didn't think the Titans are actually going to spend a lot of money. They will spend $50 million because the NFL tells them that they need to spend $50 million. I think the Titans are going to spend a lot of money. And I think the Titans are going to spend a lot of money for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think the Titans are going to spend a lot of money because they are moving into a new stadium. And the fans already hate the owner right now because she has fucked up a bunch. So in order to get them on their side, you spend the money. And it's like, yeah, Amy's committed. The second thing is, I think Mike Borgonzi knows this, even though I've had somebody tell me, it says, I promise you, Mike Borgonzi is not getting fired. And I said, you've got to give me a break. Like, you've got to, not going to work for me with this Mike Borgonzi not getting fired because Amy Adams Strunk fires people after 2 years. You get that first benefit of the doubt, and then she fires your ass. And if Borgonzi doesn't win more games this year and this team still sucks, he's going to get fired. So if you're Mike Borgonzi, it's like, do you want to spend the money or do you want to wait on somebody else to spend money down the road because you're going to get fired and it's impossible to get a second job? So here's your one shot. So I think the Titans are going to spend money. Now, are the Titans going to go cheap? Are they going to say, hey, $75 million is too much guaranteed for Tyler Linderbaum, we can't spend them? Maybe. But I think the Titans are going to spend some money. I also forgot to show this up here. So this is what the depth chart looks like after a couple of weeks of free agency with the moves that, again, I'm making. Left tackle, Dan Moore. Left guard, Peter Skoronski. And if you're watching the stream, you'll see that I have guys in blue who I think are good, above average NFL starters. And then I got one guy in red because I don't really think he's an NFL starter. So, left tackle, Dan Moore. Left guard, Peter Skoronski. Center, Tyler Linderbaum. Right guard, John Simpson. Right tackle, J.C. Latham. Wide receivers, Rashid Shaheed, Alec Iomanor, Chim DK. Now, I feel good about Shaheed at one outside position. I feel good about DK in the slot. I do not feel good about Iomanor at receiver. And the one thing that bothered me when I did this was, quite frankly, that. Tight end, Jonnu Smith with Gunnar Helm behind him. I'm giving Gunnar Helm an opportunity to win that job away from Jonnu Smith, to earn snaps from Jonnu and become a tight end one. But if Gunnar Helm is not capable of that or not ready for that, I know Jonnu Smith can be tight end one. Cam Ward at quarterback, Tony Pollard at running back. Backups, Ali Udo at left tackle. Jackson Slater will be at left guard, right guard. I put Levin in there. I need to add him back in there at the veteran minimum. We'll sign Corey Levin back. Brandon Crenshaw Dixon is the backup at right tackle right now. Mason Kinsey backs up Chim DK in the slot again right now. Teddy Bridgewater is the backup quarterback. Tajay Spears is the backup running back. On defense, Trey Hendrickson, defensive end. Defensive tackles, David Onyemata, Jeffrey Simmons. Defensive end, Jermaine Johnson II. Inside linebackers, Zaire Franklin, Cedric Gray. Corners, again, I gave you a whole list, so I just put these names in there, but Noah Igbenogany, Cam Taylor-Britt. If their markets are depressed, those are the guys that I would have as kind of the two first choices, but whatever. I'm going to sign two of those guys off that list. Amani Hooker at safety, and then Alohi Gilman or whoever else off the list at safety. And then I have Kevin Winston and Marcus Harris battling it out for the nickel corner position. Again, that's probably something that we would like to use a draft pick on. We'd like to be a little bit better, but that's where I'm going. So when it comes to the free agency plan, that's what it looks like a couple of weeks after free agency before the draft. And I am going for Trey Hendrickson, and I am going for Tyler Linderbaum. I don't need to get the second best guy on the market. I want to go get a guy who gets 17 and a half sacks. I want a guy that I can sign at center, and I know he's one of the best in the league. And that's what I'm going to do. Okay, back to your reaction here on the program. Richard says, past Borgonzi is kicking the present Borgonzi for making the Snead trade. I think you guys need to get something straight. So Kaharski reported that the negotiations between the Titans and the Chiefs went down between buddies Chad Brinker and L'Jarius Snead. I mean, Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi. And so because Kaharski reported that, people just all of a sudden started assuming that it was Brinker that made the trade and it was Borgonzi that traded him from Kansas City. No. In each case, they would talk to each other. Then they would go back to their respective camps and they would say, hey, I talked today to Borgo. Borgo said they'd be willing to do it for a second-round pick. And then the guys at Titans HQ, Rand and Callahan and everybody else would say, well, we can't do a second-round pick. Maybe tell them a fourth. So then Brinker would talk to Borgonzi, and Brinker would say, hey, we can do a fourth. We can't do a second. And Borgonzi would say, well, I went and talked to Andy Reid, and they said we got to do a those guys didn't like play a creative role in the negotiation. They just handled the negotiation. Like I have an agent too, and my agent talks to whomever and then comes back to me. That's what these guys were. They were agents for their organization. They were not making those decisions. So this idea that, man, Borgonzi, he fleeced them. I mean, the Titans wanted the player. The Chiefs didn't want the player. And they got into a negotiation, and that's the deal they made. Now, what I can't get over is giving $7.5 million guaranteed to Snead for his injuries. We're not going to guarantee it for cap. We're not going to guarantee it for skill, but we're going to guarantee it for injury. So when he fails his physical, which I guarantee you he will, when he fails his physical, you have to pay him $7.5 million. Woo! Josh says, great signings, except that the Titans never signed the best players for whatever reason. That is mostly true. TDG says, I'd rather have Chig. Smith can't run. He has a piano on his back. Jonnu Smith can run. Jonnu Smith, 5 years ago, and I'm not expecting to get the Jonnu Smith 5 years ago, but Jonnu Smith was the good version of Chig. So Chig makes one or two great plays a year where you're like, shit, Chig might actually be pretty good. And for those one or two plays a year that Chig Okonkwo makes, it's almost like, hey, that could be an everyday kind of thing. And then it never is. Chig was the athletic tight end who struggles to put the ball in the paint. Jonnu Smith was the athletic tight end who was more consistent and put the ball in the end zone. Jonnu Smith's fine. Again, I'm not looking for a number one tight end. He's not that anymore. But he can be my number one tight end while I give more reps to Gunnar Helm as I kind of transition things a little bit. Go says, this isn't a one-year rebuild. Stupid. Let me ask you. Am I telling you that Tyler Linderbaum is for 1 year? Am I telling you that Trey Hendrickson is for 1 year? I mean, I went outside John Simpson. That's not even for 1 year. Rashid Shaheed's not for 1 year. I understand this is a multi-year thing. But if you think this team can go into free agency and sign a bunch of scrubs and win 3 games and everybody's going to be happy with that, that's not how it works in the NFL. I've said this, and you people sometimes just don't want to hear it because it hurts your feelings. But the truth is, if you win 3 or 4 games again this year, everybody is going to be out on Cam Ward. So Cam Ward comes in and he posts statistically the worst season of any quarterback in the NFL this year. But he gets the benefit of the doubt because everybody says, well, he was a rookie. He had a bad coach. He was put into a bad environment. He was on a bad team. He gets every excuse. If Cam Ward wins 3 or 4 games next year, no one will make those excuses anymore. People will get sick and tired of losing, and they'll pin it on the quarterback. And you don't want that. I don't want that. Nobody wants that. Because if Cam Ward's not the guy, now where the hell are you? So you've got to win games. And winning games builds confidence in the young quarterback. It's the only statistic that goes to a position is win and loss for the quarterback. Caleb says Trey Hendrickson isn't happening, so no worries, chat. I did see Tic Tac Titan came out today. His sources, which I do wonder, his sources say the Titans are not interested in Trey Hendrickson. I don't know if they're interested in Trey Hendrickson or not. I am assuming they're not going to go get Trey Hendrickson. I'm assuming they're not going to go get Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson's going to go sign somewhere good. He's going to sack the quarterback 13 times. And I'm going to be like, I said go get Trey Hendrickson. And then you're going to tell me Trey Hendrickson was no good. He was no good on the Titans. He would have been, he's good in Dallas, but he would have been no good on the Titans. Because that's how it is. Anybody that I say they should sign that ends up being good, it's never a, you were right, Jared. It's a, well, he wouldn't be good here, so it doesn't matter. Which drives me insane. One person asked, do these players want to come here? Has he mentioned John Franklin Myers? It sounds like it's a done deal. It sounds, according to Twitter, like John Franklin Myers and Wan'Dale Robinson are for sure coming, and maybe they are. I don't want them. I mean, John Franklin Myers I can get behind. But once I spent the money on Shaheed, that money was kind of gone to be able to do that. So I said, you know what, let me go get a reliable veteran guy, which is why I went with $5 million for Onyemata. But I go back to, you know, I think Franklin Myers is a solid player, but he's not earth-shattering. And I think there are a lot of guys like that. You guys are like, oh, John Franklin Myers, he played for Robert Saleh. Great. A lot of guys played for Robert Saleh. They went 20-36. A lot of guys played for Brian Dable. He lost his ass off in New York, too. One person says, sounds like cheap moves, Rustin, that we are all would. I don't know what this means. I don't know how you could say it's a cheap move. The largest contract for a center in the NFL right now is $72 million, and I just gave a center $94.25 million. So I don't know how you can say those are cheap moves. He ain't signing Franklin Myers. He's talking about signing an old dude over Franklin. This guy is dumb. Yeah, well, my quarterback won the Super Bowl. How's your quarterback doing? Which is what I will tell everybody. My quarterback won the Super Bowl. How's your quarterback? Oh, he's the worst quarterback in the NFL right now. Jared, that's not fair. Boo-hoo. Well, I mean, I just tell you right now, Cam gets the benefit of the doubt with everybody. I went to the Super Bowl, and Solomon Wilcots came on the show, and Mike Mayock came on the show, and all these guys came on the show, and they were like, I think Cam's going to be awesome. I mean, Caleb Williams, look at Caleb Williams. Well, I don't think Cam's Caleb Williams, but okay. Well, you got to start doing what Caleb Williams did last year. And what did Caleb Williams do last year? He won some fucking games. Jeff said, more like needs at one wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2. Shaheed is wide receiver 3, running predominantly a deep route, but cool. That's worth $18 million a year. Well, a lot of you people want to give Alec Pierce $30 million a year, and that's all he does. He's a one-trick pony. Shaheed is probably the best kick returner in the NFL, and I think Shaheed's a pretty good receiver. Because the thing about Shaheed is that in New Orleans, when they needed him, Shaheed showed up. Remember that throw against Christian Fulton at the end of the game from Derek Carr at the beginning of the 2023 season? I do. Remember the NFC title game, throwing the ball down the field to Shaheed? Shaheed, I think, is a really good player, and I do think he's a little bit of a one-trick pony, but I've got Chim DK who's going to play in the slot, so I just really only need one other receiver. I am a Shaheed fan, which is why I'm overpaying. I still think Shaheed is going to get north of 20. I went with the suck tax and the value and everything else, and that came out to 18.3 a year. But goodness gracious. Darnell says, thank God you're not the GM. You're a hot take guy. Oh, thank God you're not the GM. Thank God we have the GMs who only win 3 games. Those are the GMs we like. That's honestly, I'd say that shit drives me a little insane, is when I hear people say things like, oh my God, you're a terrible general manager. I mean, thank God we have Mike Borgonzi. Mike Borgonzi has been general manager for 1 year. And in the 1 year that he was general manager, he did not improve the team by any amount of wins. That is not doing a good job. The guy I begged the Titans to sign just won the Super Bowl at quarterback. I would have been a better general manager last year than Mike Borgonzi because I would have signed Sam Darnold and traded for all those extra draft picks. And he didn't do that. And I think Brandon Beane is an example in Buffalo that when you get the quarterback right, all of a sudden you're a genius. You can fuck almost everything else up, but if you get the quarterback right, most people are going to be happy with you. And I got the quarterback right. The quarterback that I begged the Titans to sign, the quarterback that I talked about every day, ended up winning the Super Bowl. And that quarterback is pretty fucking good. Threw for 364 and 3 touchdowns in the NFC title game, which really was the Super Bowl. But no, we got to have the worst quarterback in the league and say that guy's really, really good. Person said he is a GM with rings. Yes, as assistant GM. He is not a GM with rings who won them himself. There is a big difference. John Robinson has rings too from New England. You guys hate him. Bob Quinn has rings. There's a lot of general managers that were assistant general managers and won Super Bowls. It's different when you're an assistant general manager, when you're an assistant coach, than when you're a head coach. Even though Bill Belichick calls his boat 8 rings because he likes to count his 2 as defensive coordinator. Sorry, that's not how it works. How many rings does Josh McDaniels have? You want to make him head coach? Though I do think if Drake May does win the MVP next year, somebody will say that. Sam ain't winning a Super Bowl with the Titans, LOL. Hey, guess what? You could say whatever you want. I could say whatever. He won the Super Bowl. The guy I wanted won the Super Bowl. The guy you people wanted, the guy they wanted, was statistically the worst quarterback in the NFL this year and better show some progress. TDG says, you're in the red. You are signing Trey Hendrickson. That ain't gonna happen. Again, I feel like I'm giving Trey Hendrickson more money than anybody else will give him. And maybe I will be blown away on Monday. The same way I was blown away yesterday when I saw the Buffalo Bills send a second-round pick for DJ Moore. I was like, holy shit, everybody in Chicago was telling me that they would do whatever to get him off the roster with his guaranteed money. They'd pick, swap him, they'd whatever. I'm like, great, let's swap spots in the 4th. No, they got a second-round pick in return. Yeah, no. There we go. One person says, does Calvin Ridley have any trade value? If the Titans got that $3 or $4 million guaranteed of the 5th day of the league year. So I believe if I read it correctly today, $3 million of Ridley's salary for this year guaranteed last year. So that money's already there. To answer your question, no, I don't think Calvin Ridley has any trade value. The question is, I'm wanting to pay Shaheed, or some of you are wanting to pay Romeo Doubs, or how does Romeo Doubs compare to Calvin Ridley? For me, if it's just a straight up what it looks like, get rid of Ridley, add in Wan'Dale Robinson, I don't think you're any better. Doubs, maybe. I do like the fact that Doubs puts the ball in the end zone, which, as I've said many times, is somewhat important to me. And I, again, value the speed. He's got speed, but he's north of 30. Shaheed is much younger and has real speed. Oh, yeah, I forgot to sign Jalen Naylor. I might like him, which is crazy. Jeff says, cool thinking that you got rid of the number 2 receiver you wish was the number 1 in Ridley, just so you can pay a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2 money instead of Shaheed. Amazing work, Jared. You just made Rand proud. Well, I'm not arguing that Shaheed's the number 1 receiver. I'm not trying to argue that. I'm paying him $18 million, and that's less than you're paying Ridley. And $18 million is not number 2 money. Number 2 money is $28 million. T. Higgins is at the top of the league for number 2 at $28 million. Alec Pierce, who is the number 2 receiver Alec Pierce is not a number one receiver. Alec Pierce caught 47 balls last year. He is not a number one receiver. Alec Pierce is going to get $28 million a year. I'm paying Shaheed 18.3. That is not wide receiver 2 money. That's not what it is. One person said $100 million to get worse. I'm sorry, but pull the depth chart up again. Where exactly are you worse than you were last year? Dan Moore at left tackle. Are you worse there? No. Peter Skoronski, left guard. Are you worse there? No. Center, Tyler Linderbaum. Are you worse there? I don't think so. Right guard, John Simpson. Probably the same as Kevin Zeitler. Shaheed versus Ridley. I would take Shaheed. Io Manor at receiver. I guess Io Manor's in place of what? Tyler Lockett or Van Jefferson? Chim DK in the slot. Jonnu Smith versus Chig. Jonnu Smith's a better blocker. Chig right now is probably a better player. So I'll give you tight end even though Chig can't block. Quarterback, running back are the same. Defensive end. Would you rather have your non-sackers last year or Trey Hendrickson? David Onyemata or Tavondre Sweat? Onyemata. Simmons stays the same. Jermaine Johnson, Zaire Franklin, or Cody Barton? I'd rather have Zaire Franklin because the one thing Zaire Franklin can do that I know Cody Barton can't do is run. The corners sucked last year. The corners are going to suck this year, but at least they're NFL players and they're not Jalen Armour Davis. And then, again, Alohi Gilman or whatever that list of, what was the list of safeties? Alohi Gilman, Andre Sisco, Geno Stone, Andrew Winger, Kyle Duggar, Jimmy Ward. That's the same, if not better than Xavier Woods. You're not a worse football team with that group. Now, are you a Super Bowl contender? Probably not. That's going to be determined by whether or not you hit on your draft picks and whether or not Cam Ward becomes the man. But I am trying to get it so that Cam Ward can get better in year 2, and we can then know, okay, Cam's the guy, and now we can put more on his plate. And I've left open the ability to really draft whoever I want with the 4th pick. I mean, again, pull this back up. Pull this chart back up with the depth chart. Right now, let's take a look at the defense. Let's say I end up drafting Sonny Styles. Well, then Sonny Styles goes in there, and Zaire Franklin drops down, and Cedric Gray goes to the bench. And I can live with that. Let's say I draft Carnell Tate, which I would never do, but if I draft Carnell Tate, Alec Manor goes to the bench, Carnell Tate starts at receiver. Let's say I draft Ruben Bain. Well, Ruben Bain can back up Onyemata or rotate in because, again, that's how this defense is going to play, where they're constantly bringing guys in and rotating guys through. So now I've got Hendrickson, Onyemata, Simmons, Johnson, Oladejo, and Bain. Same with Bailey if I end up drafting him. I'm not blocking anybody that I could draft from getting onto the field. I'm just not making any assumptions that I'm going to draft this position and he's going to play. Johnny says, if you couldn't have Hendrickson at edge, what would you do differently? Well, then I'd have to start the whole process over again. By the way, if I was interviewing for a general manager, this is exactly what I would have the GM do. Like this exercise where instead of, what are your philosophies on building a team? And what are your philosophies with the coach? And what are your philosophies? And that stuff would matter. But the number one thing I'd be doing is I'd be sitting here saying, build me a fucking team. And then I'd decide if it's any good or not. And I'd see your processing, like how you got there. Lindsay's brother is a hotel executive in Canada, very high-end hotel executive. And he told me, because we were talking about why the Titans suck so bad. We were actually on the way to the World Series. We were on the train, and he asked me, like, why do the Titans suck so bad? And I was like, well, they hired a moron to be general manager. And I was like, when they hired him, he sounded like he was, he knew what he was doing. But once he got there, it was like, oh my God, this guy has no idea what he's doing. And I said, I'm sure you've experienced some of that, like hiring managers to hotels. And he's like, yes, but the way that we've eliminated that is what we do is we set up a computer in the interview process and we have somebody run through our model and we're like, okay, build it out for us. And then we can go back in after they're done because they do it on our computer and we can see the process with which they build the model on whatever it is that they do that I don't know. I don't think it's like hiring a front desk manager. I think it's like, high-end hotel management. And I'm like, that's brilliant. I would want to sit down with the general manager and say, all right, here's the money you have, go fix the team. And then I would take all the plans and I would say, okay, whose plan is the best? That's who I'm going to hire as general manager. And so, again, you guys tell me who you want because last year I told you Sam Darnold, you told me he sucks, and there you go. One person says, Teddy Bridgewater's body is made of glass. Well, isn't the hope around here that Teddy Bridgewater doesn't have to play? Like, isn't that the hope? I mean, we're signing him to be the backup quarterback. I mean, I really want him to be more of that, like, extra coach for Cam Ward more than anything else. One person said, I can't wait until Easton rips this apart. I mean, Easton, I love Easton, but Easton, somebody told me I didn't see his. Somebody told me his breakdown was basically like, go sign corners in free agency and then go sign, the second tier free agents. The second tier guys. Paul and I kind of got into it the other day, and Paul was talking about how, they can't all be Trey Hendrickson and Linderbaum and Pierce. And I'm like, I understand that. But if you think, you know what, I'm going to go look for the Delaney Walker of the world, you're never going to find the Delaney Walker. You're just going to sign a bunch of Scarpinis. If you say, hey, I'm going to go out and get the guys that I think are the best players, there's going to be a guy in that group that you don't expect that you sign who all of a sudden, hey, this guy's actually pretty freaking good. And that's what happened there. I mean, again, the Titans were in a rebuild, year one of a new quarterback, when they went out in free agency and brought in Kevin Mawai. And Kevin Mawai made a huge difference, and that team started making the playoffs, and that team had the number one seed in the AFC. And I hear anybody bitching about Kevin Mawai after that. One guy says, I like this plan, Jared, but you and I both know the Titans won't do it because the Titans never signed the good players. I mean, they traded for DeMarco Murray, which was essentially a free agency sign. I do, I was talking to Paul about this, and I was like, they do. The name that I bring up is DeMarco Murray. That's the kind of player they need. And if you remember that when the window opened, DeMarco Murray wasn't on the team anymore, but they needed DeMarco Murray to help get the window open. And those are, when I look at Hendrickson, that's what I look at, is that DeMarco Murray type player. And DeMarco Murray was making a bunch of money for a running back. He ended up taking a little bit of a pay cut to come to the Titans and immediately led the AFC in rushing because DeMarco Murray was a player. That's what I'm getting. Guys that are actually good and can come in right away and contribute and be blue players in the league, which is Hendrickson, which is Linderbaum, which is some of those guys. One person says, did you include the upfront cash for Simmons and or Skoronski? No, I did not. I will worry about those extensions later. I am busy right now signing guys to new contracts that are not on the team. And whatever money we end up giving Skoronski this year, I mean, he's under contract for this year. I'll worry about giving him an extension later. I do want to remind people, Monday, 11 a.m. Central Time, right here on the Stillman & Company YouTube page, it will be the Free Agent Frenzy, which will have special guests like Jonathan Hutton, TD, Caroline, Nick Suss will all join the show. And we will be reacting in live time to the moves that are made or the moves that are not made by the Titans on Free Agent Frenzy. Again, that's right here on the YouTube page. We will post the podcast. So if you want to go back or if you want to hear what it was like, a live reaction to all the moves, that will be up as well. And then on Monday, 7 o'clock, a special edition of a football show on the 440 Sports Network. Braden Gall out. Yours truly in with PK. So it will be a special edition of a football show on the 440 YouTube page. Go like and subscribe over there. It will be a special edition of Stilly and Paulie recapping day one of free agency. So like and subscribe, tell your friends this is their show. And if something big breaks or something big changes, then we will go live before then. But if not, I'll be on SiriusXM tomorrow morning, but see everybody at 11 a.m. on Monday.